Welcome to Holy Fuck.
Holy fuck. Holy fuck.
Two gals on the prowl for enlightenment, sex, and all things holy.
Holy fuck.
Each week, beauty alchemist and transformational coach and speaker, Katherine McClelland, and spiritual healer and life coach, Krista Kim, discuss navigating spiritual consciousness in a real human body. Stumbling through dating, relationships, and everyday life, all while maintaining a fucking sense of humor. Here we go, everybody.
Hello, hello.
Hey, Katherine.
Hey, Krista.
How's it going?
It's going great. We're so happy to be here today. We love this process of hanging out with this whole imaginary team of people who are in our universe. I literally have pictures in my head of who these people are.
It's like we think we're going to the office, but there's no office and there's no employees. There's no water cooler to talk over. There's just us.
It's just us. And then the funniest thing is my head thinks it knows what you all look like. So it'll be very interesting. I think I've been on, Facebook and TV a little too long, and I can just pull up random images of people and put them in my audience and go, hey, those are my people. So here we are
maybe one
today.
day we'll envision together what our people look like.
Oh, well, we know what they feel like, right?
What do yours feel like? I'm like, okay. I don't know. I don't think I've ever.
I wasn't going there, but no, what I meant was
yeah, please clarify.
how it feels to have them in our milieu. Like how it feels when I imagine our crew is plugged in and we're talking to them, not how it feels to be with them. Although this is a show where we talk about sex, so I guess we could touch on that. Touch.
And I'm excited because a couple weeks ago you gave me a book, and I love it.
What book is that?
Love it. Because you have given me two.
Yes, I know. Which one is it?
The second one, not that I didn't love the first one, I'm still reading that too, but the second one had such a great title that I was like, oh, that's the one for summer reading. And
it's a new kind of summer reading.
Yes. The Ethical Slut.
Yeah, that one you could probably make a book cover for if you're reading it at the beach, because it does say slut rather largely.
And bright purple. And it's by Janet W. Hardy, and I think you say her name Dossie Easton.
I think so.
And over 200,000 copies sold. This book has been around.
This is their third edition, so 20 years.
Yeah,
they've written this book over and over and updated it, and so
and
we're lucky enough.
Fascinating. Sorry, I pulled away from my mic because I was going to grab a copy of it to look at.
Don't pull away from the mic.
And it's just kind of like blowing the top off my brain when it comes to how I've thought about relationships, thought about sex, thought about other people and their sexual orientation.
Aberrations, possibly.
What is that word?
Aberrations, like ways in
mean?
which they do things sexually differently than you would normally do them, and what you think of that.
Yes.
Like you might call them aberrant rather than choices. You might have some judgments on it.
I feel like I'm getting ready for an SAT class.
Jeez almighty, girl.
Aberrant. Like, I don't know that word.
Just move it on past aberrant.
Well, I guess what's really struck me is I've always thought that I was really open-minded.
Oh,
and that I was accepting of everybody and was pretty brave sexually. And I'm like, reading this book, I'm like, wow, I am so naive.
Pussycat.
Yes. Well, it's new, Pussycat. Yeah, so I'm looking at myself, and our audience doesn't know this, but like I've written a lot of musicals, like really naughty, raunchy, adult humor, just hilarious. Oh God, I don't even know, like spoof type musicals. There might have been a dildo or two that comes out on stage. Not used on stage, but maybe just like hitting someone in the face. But anyways, my point in that being is that
there might have been one of those things that might have happened.
Okay,
once.
there might have been like 10 of those musicals.
And the dildos were there. They were not maybe there.
Yes, they were definitely there.
Okay.
So,
were they larger than life?
On occasion.
Thank you. Someday we might do a show about Krista's shows. Let's find out more about that.
But the reason I'm bringing that up is because I'm in that world of like, I talk pretty freely about it, about sex, or I have no problem getting up on stage and making funny jokes about all of the stuff. So I think I'm pretty open-minded. But then when I started reading this book, I just realized like, I don't have any information. And it's not because I'm closed off to it. It's because no one's talking about it. I mean, I shouldn't say no one. In my world, I haven't heard a lot of people talking about it.
Well, what I find, Krista, is so many times this year, the people who are talking about it are so much younger. Like I took a young woman to lunch on her 21st birthday, and we had an incredible conversation about the spectrum and what that meant, and all sorts of things about where you fall on the spectrum and how many different spots there are to fall in the spectrum, and in the way I used to think about it, there were about 4 or 6 maybe. And I was like, yeah, I think
what were those 4 or 6?
Well, just, all the way from
straight,
homosexual to straight. And then there were just like,
with polygamy in between.
Transvestite was somewhere, and bisexual was somewhere. And I didn't have it lined up like good or bad. I just had it was somewhere. And then the extremes were maybe monogamy and
an orgy.
Maybe an orgy or polygamy. I can't quite say. But anyway, there were, 6 stops on the train to love. And
now the train is off the rails.
It is a local, sister. It is stopping.
Locomotion.
This is not exactly the express train to anywhere. So, except love. So I find that the conversation amongst younger people has been inviting inside me, and also because I'm single right now, a much higher level of interest and curiosity that they have. And I think the one thing I found so interesting in these conversations is how honoring and respectful it is. They honor and respect each person, no matter what their thing is. Like, I didn't even know there was such a thing as asexual. And the other night, I was having a conversation with 2 young people, and maybe right around 20, and they were telling me that it's a thing. And asexual is a choice. And I was like, oh, I just thought it was something that people said about someone who didn't have a lot of sexual energy. But I figured everybody had some. But you could actually make the choice to say, got none.
Yeah.
Don't want to go there. That's so cool.
Well, and that's what I love about this book is it's talking about all of these different lifestyles, and it's not saying that one is better than the other. It's doing the exact opposite. And it's not even saying that a monogamous marriage is good or bad. It's just saying here are all the different sexual, I don't even know what they call it.
We could call them just positions for the fun
positions.
All the positions
and multiple
you could
players on the team. And they're saying like,
in the same bed or at the same time, or
and they're saying it's all good. And where did it ever come into play that one way was better than the other? And so my thinking is we can play a little game. Well,
where's this going?
Well, just if we were to take religion off the table for a second, because I feel like that's a hot button whenever we're talking sex and sexual orientation. The minute religion gets put in there, then it gets people heated up before they get a chance to just come up with their own
Oh, so we're asking
perspective.
our audience and ourselves to pretend like we've never heard what our religion, if we have one, has said about sex.
Right. And no history on it. Just forget everything we know.
And all the shame that you've been accorded your entire life about all that. We're just going to, for the moment, we're going to step outside that and say, what if? What if all that was zero? Like null, void, we don't need to think about that? And then talk about these ideas to see what we could come up with. And good, bad, right, wrong? Is that like...
Right, because...
Is there really anything wrong here? Is that what you mean?
And I think one of the points that the authors were making is that if we could for 1 second get rid of those layers...
Yeah.
And really get in touch with our heart and go, what really feels good to me? Or if no one was looking and I wasn't going to get in trouble and I wasn't going to get fired from my job
or shamed, humiliated,
what would I want to experience sexually?
Scarlet letter, perhaps, on me somewhere.
I'm going to keep going.
Yes, because I'm thinking
Burned
of all
at the
these
stake.
Because you said religion, but I it's not even just religion, it's morality. It's our silly society for a long time. And it happened in the United States more than it happened in other parts of the world, I think. Mm-hmm. Because I think you can see it in the Puritan ethic. And I think we got robbed of our sexuality during that time. And we're fighting our way back, kicking and screaming. Have you ever seen a sexually repressed Italian? No, I have never seen that.
I don't know. Maybe I need to go to Italy and do some research.
Yes, probably. Yes, me too. Yes, I think we can get that on a budget next year.
Is that a write-off?
Can we go to Greece? Can we go to Greece and Italy?
That's on my vision board.
Is it? Yes, the goddess needs to go to Greece. Aphrodite, emerging from the sea.
But damn it, now I'm in a monogamous relationship.
Well, just bring him with you because he could fill the bill. We could just choose him as Aphrodite's Adonis, and we could just go from there, lying on the beach, naked in the sun, which you're allowed to do in Greece. Because they're not repressed Puritans like us. So the funniest thing happened in LA last year where Venice Beach passed an ordinance that said you could be naked on the beach, but LA said no. So there were these fighting ordinances because LA is the overpowering power of Venice Beach. So all these people were out in Venice Beach naked trying to make their point that they had passed this law. Very funny. In California, you know that people are rabid in both directions about this conversation.
But it means it's coming. It's kind of like, coming. I said coming.
What is coming?
Well,
that's what they're worried about. They're worried about sex on the beach. That's what everybody's freaking out about.
Because no one's having sex on the beach now. They're just doing it with their bathing suit pulled to the side.
Ew, to the side. Ew. Yeah, sand. Yeah. And, you know, it does
the towel over.
But in Italia, in Italy, and Greece, and maybe even France, there's probably a little more acceptance of all this, especially because even if you aren't on a nude beach, you don't need to wear a top. No. So there's that whole thing, too. So we are freakishly freaked out by this.
What I meant by that was what coming is that, like, think about years ago when they were trying to legalize marijuana in California, and it had to start somewhere, and it was going to get opposition from somewhere, and then however many years later, it's happening. So I feel like the shame or the body and the naked beaches or whatever our society's going through, eventually, 10 years, 50 years, who knows, but it just means we're going in that direction, and it's probably the younger generation that's going to make it happen.
Because it's responsible, that younger generation. Well, but you know what else too, Krista?
What?
It used to be in California that you could be naked on the beaches. It used to be.
What happened?
Somebody got uptight.
You couldn't have gay marriage and naked beaches. You had to choose one.
Good one. Yeah, I think that's probably the problem. Gay marriage was a tough one for California, too. It's such a funny state to live in because there are so many people who are free beyond my wildest imagination of freedom, what that means and how they conduct themselves in their life, which is fabulous as a paradigm for me to watch and look and play with. Has been great. And there are some of the most bound, tight, frustrated conservatives.
I'm like, where are we going?
I'm like, I don't know where I was going. I couldn't find the right word. Conservatives that balance that. And so there's this swinging, in some ways,
swinging.
But not quite what you meant.
That's another
by
lifestyle
swinging.
in the Ethical Slut book.
Yes. And one of the things, so obviously this happens in the U.S. all over. We're doing that bouncing back and forth. In California, it comes out of the closet, like, are our beaches naked or aren't they? And do we have gay marriage or don't we? And it becomes these big things and big oppositional. So that's just about us. So we're going to get off that topic because it's not about all of you. It's about California. But it still shows up in other places.
You know, we were talking about the game of playing it from the perspective of there's no religion, there's no history.
Morality.
No morality, okay? Right. So we'll go with no morality so we don't excite people too much.
Well, you don't get religion either.
Yeah. I feel like my kids, so I'll tell a quick little story. My son, he says as a joke, invited somebody, another boy to homecoming, okay? And I was like, oh, are you gay? And he was like, why do I have to be gay? And I'm like, oh, I don't know. I was just asking. And he's telling me he's not, but it was my first kind of moment. And even my daughter chimed in like, yeah, Mom, why does it matter? And I was like, it totally doesn't matter. But to them, even asking the question
is disrespectful.
So the generation older than us, for the most part, we're going to generalize here, they were against gays. You're like, crickets.
I'm
Meaning,
trying
like,
to, I'm trying to see if
think
that's
of your
true.
grandparents. Gay was not a thing that was public. It wasn't talked about.
So
my mom's...
Like a generation that's around 100 years old now.
Yeah. Well, even my mom's generation, she says, I didn't even know what a gay person was until she was like 45.
Well, she's from the South.
No, she was from the Midwest.
Oh.
But that's what I mean. It's like it wasn't talked about as much. It was even just to start talking about it, and it was a thing. Our generation is talking about it, and we're coming into acceptance and like not making a big deal of it. But the generation behind us is like,
why are you talking about this?
Why are you even talking about it? Why is it even a thing?
Like, why is my sexuality on the table at all here?
Right.
Yeah,
so here I was thinking,
cool.
I was like, oh, I'm a cool mom. I'm just asking and be like, hey, whatever you want to do is great. And they're just like, no, don't even talk about it.
So cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
So it was really eye-opening.
Yeah, I love it. I love that. And that was part of this conversation I had earlier this year when I said I took that young woman to lunch was you get to say who you are, even if nobody understands. Even if you've just invented a new spot on the local train that's stopping at your stop. Okay, so I think one of the things we were talking about today was some of, like, were you ever called a slut, Krista?
Oh, you're asking me that because the title of the book is Ethical Slut.
And what's so fun about that is, of course, the connotation of slut is that it's unethical, bad, something.
Right.
There's all sorts of morality around it, right?
Okay.
But since it's called the ethical slut, that's actually not part of this conversation because when you and I grew up, there was no such thing as an ethical slut.
Right. And that the authors are basically trying to reclaim that word.
Absolutely.
That's take the power away from it. So,
right. So were you ever called a slut?
I don't remember anybody calling it to my face, but I just feel like it was a word that in high school we used freely about behind people's back. we didn't say it
we didn't say it about ourselves.
We just said it behind their back, like, oh, she's such a slut because she might have had sex with a boy.
Or not even had sex with him.
Yeah.
But she was maybe fooling around with him, making out with him in the bleachers. Mm-hmm. Ever done that?
And
Me too.
Everybody's out there doing the same thing, and then everybody's calling everybody else out. That's what I find interesting.
Yeah, because it was shameful. Right. Any sexual activity was so shameful that we had to separate ourselves from it and not call ourselves that and all that. I remember when I was in college one time, I guess I was dating a guy who thought I was much more serious, and he was seriously much more serious about me than I was with him. And he told all his friends about me, and I didn't know his friends, and it was this big deal. And then I had a make-out session with a guy he knew. Mm. And all of the sudden, like 200 people wouldn't talk to me. Mm. It was one of the worst days of my life. It was a 4th of July, and no one talked to me the entire day. And no one even approached me. Finally, he came to me, the one who thought we were dating, which we had no agreements. And he called me a slut to my face, and he said, I was falling in love with you, and blah, blah, blah. I was never falling in love with him. I had barely kissed him. I was much more attracted to the other guy.
I would rather be a slut than be in love with you.
Right. Could have said something like that. Would have been better. So it was like this whole group shaming thing. And it was where I lived. They came from somewhere else, and they sort of landed in my world. Mm. Luckily, they left. But it was one of the hardest days of my life. And I eventually, at the end of the day, was in tears because...
In a defining moment, I'm sure.
Seriously, no one talked to me all day because I was a slut.
So then how do you think that changed your behavior moving on? Or what did that do for you?
It definitely made me feel like a slut. Definitely.
Did you change your behavior?
Totally ashamed. Definitely changed my behavior. I mean, it definitely made me... like I had to take care of other people's feelings and make sure that I was clear about what part we were in a relationship, as if that was my responsibility. Like I didn't know I was in a relationship with this guy, but he thought we were.
Do you think it pushed you into territory going into like monogamous relationships or marriage or that type of thing as like something that needs to get cemented in order to have sex freely so that keep you safe from being called a slut?
Well, I definitely wasn't allowed to date more than one guy at a time or make out with more than one guy. Like that, I remember when someone first said to me, do you know that it's like fine for you to date a few guys and make out with them at the same time? I was like, no, isn't that like cheating on the one? And they're like, Where did you learn that?
And I think that has seriously changed from when you were growing up to when I'm growing up to what the dating scene looks like now. It's like almost expected that if you're on one of these dating apps or that type of thing, it's accepted that everyone's dating like 10 different people and making out all at one time until something clicks and people decide, okay, we're going to just be the two of us for a while. But up until that time, you can just, for sure, your person is with many other people.
Yeah, that's definitely been my experience. It's been totally freeing. It's been so great. So not, this last year, not even calling myself that, like not having those judgments present. What you said, take the morality off it, take the religion off it, take other people's expectations off it. And now the freedom. I mean, girls, go. Guys have been doing this forever.
Slut it up.
Slut it up. Ethical slutting. So we were looking through this book earlier, and there were some, what were they, myths, I think, that we were talking about?
First of all, the one line that I really, really loved. Here,
Krista had a fun line.
Because it just struck me as so cool. They just had the word easy written there. And of course, they're using it in the connotation around calling a woman easy. And
pejorative.
What?
Negative.
Okay. That's another SAT word.
That. Just pretend not.
Sure, I know what that means. Well, I'm assuming I'm somewhat educated, and if I don't always know the definition of a word, then I'm going to think maybe I should clarify for
That's a really good idea.
For our listeners. Okay. So
Negative.
Easy. And then it says, is there, we wonder, some virtue in being difficult? And I don't know why that struck me, but it was like a switch went off in my head of like, wow, a word that I have looked at as such a negative connotation to it, and how we're programmed to look at being easy as bad. When if something's easy in any other part of our life, we're like, yay, it was easy. The test was easy. The recipe was easy. It doesn't matter. It's
an easy day to day.
Yeah, it's a great thing in every part of our life until we start talking about sex. And then if sex becomes easy and effortless and enjoyable, then all of a sudden it's negative.
Well, it's also about the woman, though. That's the one thing that's really important to recognize, is that it's not that sex is easy, because that's really fun when sex is easy. It's that the woman is easy. Well, how about the guy she's sleeping with? I remember being really pissed about that in college, because I remember that, so-and-so was an nymphomaniac, so-and-so was easy, so-and-so was a slut. I'm like, the guys, they were studs. There we go, right?
Don
they were
Juans.
like Don Juan, like big man on campus, right? Mr. Big.
Well, I'm going to read that line again, because then we can talk about the opposite. So remember, is there, we wonder, some virtue in being difficult? So think about if a woman is difficult to either date or get into a relationship with, or difficult to get into bed, then all of a sudden she's a prude, she's uptight, and all these other words.
Right. So you've got to search for the sweet spot. It's up to the woman to hold her virtue, but just enough to be sexy, but not too sexy, to come on, but not too strong, right? It's like, oh my God, what a game. And I remember these feelings, right? Do you remember them?
Well, I remember them growing up, and I remembered them even in marriage in a way, because it's like, well, now I'm a mom. So can I still be sexy? Because now I'm over here at the bake sale. So shouldn't I stop having sex and having like fun feelings? I need to just shut that down and be a really good mom and a baker.
Yeah. I'm not a baker.
Yeah. But then you better turn around and put those hooker heels on at night and like, woo.
That's
but then
right.
get back
so
and
you
feed
can
the baby
satisfy
afterward.
your man. And we're not going to that story that just flashed through my head. Okay. Woo, that was not one anybody wants to hear about. But Okay. So this is a really fabulous topic, because for me also, I added on top of that minister.
And I was teacher.
No. Okay.
I was a school teacher. So it's that same thing.
School teacher and mother, both of us. I was a religious leader and a mother.
Well, holy fuck. That's what we're talking about.
That's what we're talking about. That's what we're so frustrated about. I remember the night I got ordained. Not the night I got, or so the next morning.
You had a bottle of champagne and had sex.
No, we did the big ritual, whatever. The next morning I woke up in complete panic. What have I done with my life? Because I could feel all of my inner shutting down, like, okay, you can never be sexy again. You can never be beautiful again. You can never have a wild moment. You can never get drunk again. You can never act out at a party. You can never, ever do any of those things again.
Wow.
Just so you know, for the record, it didn't hold. But it didn't stick. It popped right through that.
Because it's suffocating. Because then you're shutting down a part of yourself. And that's kind of, well, that is the point of this podcast, is us trying to show how we've been reintegrating all of these different sides to ourselves. And we're still in process doing that. And it's an ongoing process. But we are just trying to inspire other people out there to start looking at the ways in which they are judging themselves for doing something wrong, and really looking at, like, is it really wrong to them? Or
is it really wrong to be easy?
Yeah. Or if somebody wasn't there judging them, would they think it was a perfectly fine thing to do?
Exactly.
Right?
Well, like, our integrity exists in a place where no one can see us. It's our integrity. So, it, like you were just saying, it's so interesting. How would I feel about this if no one was commenting? That's such a great place to get to inside ourselves. And the one thing I wanted to circle back about the ministry, actually, was I said I broke through it, but I only broke through it time, like, in specific moments, because when I left the ministry, my body was in total breakdown. And so many things were shut down in my physical body because I had done the chakra elevation and the spiritual bypass that none of us like to admit we've ever done, but is the sort of new age answer to body pain. And so now as we've talked about the last few weeks, we've gone back in, we've reclaimed these parts of our body, but part of what we're reclaiming, and the reason we call this show Holy Fuck, is because it's so fun to reclaim our sexuality. It's so fun to feel passionate and joyful and sexy and fabulous.
Well, and I feel like I'm not just reclaiming my sexuality, I've been reclaiming my funny, because once I had my spiritual awakening, what the next adult show that I went to go write, it was really hard to write it because there was all of a sudden I was like this angel floating on earth and like wearing a white floaty dress, and it was
your
like,
audience was so confused.
Well, that was in real life. Trust me, I still put the lingerie on and did the show, but I noticed that there was a part of myself that was being challenged writing the material, because I was like, oh, is this spiritual? I'm spiritual now, so how can I still be funny over here and do that? And so I made it through a couple more musicals, but really the last 2 years in particular, the funny left in a way. It's like, because I dropped really into the spiritual realm. And so this year has been so much about getting back in my body and dancing and working out and having fun and having sex and allowing myself to
be real,
be
authentic.
And now my funny's coming back because I'm like, oh, I didn't need to disconnect from it. God doesn't want me to be a bore. God doesn't want to be bored. God wants creativity.
God is creativity.
God is creativity. So it doesn't matter what we're creating as long as we're creating. Yes, we love to create things that are uplifting. Sure. And that's what we're doing. And we're going to make it fucking funny and relatable and be ourselves in it.
That's exactly what we went through. That was the portal or the birthing we went through when we started the show, was when we came up with those two words, holy fuck. And were we really going to say that out in the world? Because honestly, there is nothing more authentic for either of us than to actually be holding those two things together. Mm-hmm. And if somebody doesn't like it, they're not our tribe. That's all we can say. It's just we can't. What?
Well, I think I didn't. No, am I going to say this out loud? I think in the holy fuck, there was a part of me that didn't really believe I could find the holy fuck.
Oh.
Yeah. And I feel like I'm finding that in this new relationship, like the combination that works, a nice blend.
Bring our audience up to date. I think we've had a couple of weeks of silence on the relationship front with Krista.
Don't say relationship. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay,
it is a relationship now. It is a relationship, y'all. I did it.
She jumped back in.
As much as I really was trying to give myself a year not in relationship, God had a different plan.
And she wrote an ideal scene, which is a good way to create a plan.
Yes. And yes, when we had talked about that on a past podcast about how I just didn't put a good timeline on it, or I didn't put in a year, I will, be experiencing this. So I'm experiencing it now. And there was a moment where I could have walked away from the relationship.
What happened?
Oh.
Did you get scared?
I might have tried to sabotage it. Did I not talk about me sabotaging it the last time?
I don't think we heard the story in public.
Did the slut come out?
Now, this is the slut you judge? Because she wasn't in your integrity, right? She was.
Yeah. So, okay, I'll get really real. So.
Oh, thank you.
Yes. So my beautiful partner, we had the conversation of, is Krista still dating other people or not? And I had said, no, I don't want to date anybody else right now. So
can I just clarify for our audience that you first said yes and that you wanted to keep doing that and he was completely okay? And then
with me dating other people, he was like, whatever you need. Yes. And then I realized like, wow, I really wouldn't like it if he were to go date someone else right now because things are moving pretty quickly and it feels really in integrity and it's authentic and it has all the components. Huh?
I said you're starting to get close and intimate. It's like.
So yeah, I didn't want to mix energy with other people at this point. So I said, yes, it's just you and I for a while and we'll go with that. No timeline. I can't tell you what it'll be in 3 months, but for right now, him and I. And then we were supposed to meet out at my favorite watering hole. And he was about, 20 minutes behind me. And in that 20 minutes, I had saddled up and was talking to a friend of mine, a super cute young little hottie. And yeah, just gotten super flirty. And by the time my love showed up, I just completely ignored him. And it was not my finest moment. But in that, even
That's
saying it, oh God, it was just so yucky.
So it's like the temptation to go, I was being a slut. Like, no, you weren't.
Well,
what were you doing?
Well, I think I had fears around my partner. My partner has a lot of girl friends. He's always surrounded by a lot of women. Okay.
And he works with women.
And he works with a lot of women. And so I had the conversation of like, well, you're with a lot of women all the time and they're always around. He's like, well, you kind of got to get used to it because it's my work and what I do. And I love everybody and I'm friends with all these people and it's just going to be the way it is. And so there was this little part inside of me that was like, well, I'll show you. Like what's good for you is good for me. And so I think it was a moment of rebellion or trying to even up the playing card, I don't know what the
This was
phrase
definitely
is.
Your highest self coming forward, yes?
Yeah, no. My
Little scared Krista.
My very, very basic self came forward, and another thing is that I'd had a couple beers, and not that that's like an excuse for it, but for me, it's like my tongue gets really loose when I drink, meaning I just start having fun and flirty and
the judgment cells all burn out and shut down.
Right. And
what do I really want? Don't know. I want this.
You're not cute. So it was just this moment of rebellion of like, I wanted him in that moment to feel what it feels like every time, what I feel like when I show up at these places and there's just women falling all over him.
And he's so handsome.
I know.
And they're all like, just give me a chance, baby.
I know. But no, they can't have one. So the girls can't have one.
Got it.
Got it. Okay. You gave me a look like, really? They can't?
No.
Okay. What did you want to say? Okay. So anyways, that was just not my best behavior. And he handled it brilliantly by just like, he's very skilled. He has his process and he started working it. And he didn't call me out or get mad at me in public or anything like that. He just backed away, went into his meditative space and really looked at it from like, what is in it for him? What's his learning in all this?
Powerful awareness. Notice this thing that he's doing called working his process is a beautiful thing. And the more we can do this, make it our own, see what it is within it that's for us.
And he was holding space for me.
Yeah.
Because obviously I was going through something, and he didn't know. He's like, is she running? Is she scared? Is she, wanting to hook up with this guy? Like, he didn't know. So the night didn't end great. It didn't end horrible, but it didn't end great. But the next day when we talked, and, he said to me, like, why don't you just take the weekend to, like, figure out how you feel and what you want to do? And he's like, that definitely didn't feel great. And he's like, I stepped up in front of everybody and said some really beautiful things, and they were met with just crickets. Because in that moment, I felt like he was trying to crash my party. And he was just like, no, I thought we were dating. So I was just being authentic. I was an asshole. I was a complete...
Okay, hold on. Let's not call you names, because that doesn't work for me. But you were scared.
Okay, Mom.
No, because calling someone an asshole means that that's who you are. It's like...
My behavior was an asshole then. Can I say that?
Absolutely. You acted like an asshole because you were scared. I'm completely okay with that. And I can see that you were acting
and
like
the flirty
asshole.
part is fine. He would be fine with that. That wasn't the problem. The problem was the dismissing of him when he was around. And if he would have done that to me, I would have...
Hell to pay.
Oh, my God. So I'm big enough to go back the next day and be like, I fucked up. That was all my shit coming to the surface. And I was able to share, like, hey, we both have that pattern of flirting and getting energy from people on the outside. And so it opened up the dialogue for us to talk about it. Like, hey, why is he doing that? Why am I doing that? What are we trying to get from it? And can we let that behavior go and find it with each other?
Very sweet.
And so although it was me who did the behavior in that night, it was the best thing that ever happened. And it was a defining moment, and it cleared a lot of stuff. And he had to look at his pattern of writing that line of what's okay and what's not. And then we started that weekend calling all of our people that were maybe in our field of dating, or maybe that were past lovers or whatever. And just, we started closing down those doors, which felt incredible.
Wow.
To like energetically cut off.
Absolutely.
Because you can not be necessarily being a slut, not cheating on somebody, but if your energy is sending a cute little emoji out to somebody or a little flirty text, that means you're giving your energy to somebody else.
Yeah, and I just want to go back, and I'm circling around that word slut again, because we're not calling anybody that anymore, because we're giving people a chance to have their own lives and their own choices. It's when we're making our choices from love or fear that we're calling forward in this moment. So when you were scared...
When I was scared.
You acted like a bitch, an asshole, like whatever word works for you, right?
I just wasn't in my integrity, and it's not who I want to be. And he was basically saying, you either have a choice to like rise up or...
Move on.
And in that moment, I was like, ooh, he's good. Like, someone like him is who I want to be with, because he wasn't angry. He wasn't mad. It wasn't name calling or anything. He was just looking at the behavior and saying not good enough for him. And I was getting to look at some of his behaviors and say, hey, that's not really working for me. It hurts. And how can we fix it?
It's so interesting, Krista, because, we've been talking about authenticity and all of those really important things. And there was this hidden thing that you hadn't said yet, which was, this is actually really bugging me. So without noticing that, you go to a bar, you have a couple beers fairly quickly, and all of that starts coming forward because we can't shut it down when we're doing that. So it's such a great representation of the reason for authenticity is like, as soon as there's something in your field, oh God, I've got to have to say this out loud, because yes, you might be risking your partnership, but it'd be way better to risk it from authenticity than from sitting in the bar stool and feeling like crap the next
And let's
day.
be clear, this is a long-held pattern of mine. This is not the first time I've done that in a relationship. It is
sure.
Yeah.
We already knew that.
Oh, okay.
We weren't going to point any fingers or stare at you or anything. It just is that we're reusing these words for women, and we're not letting ourselves call ourselves names. Behaviors come from our beliefs, right? They come from what we're thinking. And if we're scared or we're mad or we're hurting and we haven't shared it, we're going to behave on it.
I feel like what we need to clarify, or what this book is trying to clarify, is it doesn't matter what type of sexual situation you get into, what your orientation is. But what it really talks about is everybody who is participating needs to be safe. They need to be loved. There needs to be a lot of compassion and a lot of honesty and a lot of communication.
Oh, that's so great. I'm so glad you said that, Krista, because that is the point of this book, is that the reason it's called The Ethical Slut is because you can do anything you want to do as long as you tell everybody and everyone who might be affected, health-wise, everyone. You know, if you're sleeping around, you can sleep with 100 people if you want. And if you're sleeping without condoms and without caring for yourself, you can do that. You just have to tell everybody you're doing it.
So that they can make a choice of whether they want to be involved with that or not.
When I was earlier this year with a man, I said to him, I haven't been tested. I've been with another man. I have absolutely no idea where I am in this place. He said, I don't care. He said, I was tested yesterday. I know where I am in this place. I don't care. I was like, okay.
I just had a judgment in my head.
It was so interesting.
I was kind of like, I'll just
blurt it out.
I'm an idiot. Like,
why wasn't he taking better care of himself? Right? Like, I'm fabulous. Let's be serious. But having sex with me without protection when I know I've been sleeping with somebody who's sleeping with other people. And of course, he was one of the people that got the old phone call around, hey, guess what I got?
Which was great, because then that gives him a chance to have a learning opportunity as well of how scary that feels when you get that phone call.
The truth is that I actually didn't go there with him. I decided that in my integrity, I didn't want, because I didn't have the all clear, I didn't want to take a chance with him. But I had to call him anyway because of the nature of some of these things.
Right.
Fooling around can cross some of those physical boundaries too. But anyway, we are revealing a lot about ourselves today.
No, it's all good. It's all good. I love about this book is that it had this part that says myths about sluts. And I just think that
all of them.
The myths are like, they're fantastic. So, long-term monogamous relationships are the only real relationships.
They're the only ones that count. Don't try anything else or you're a slut.
And wow, that is just a hard one to...
I think we can all feel it. Can you feel it? It's like,
it's like, I don't even know what to say about it.
It's like, it's in our bodies. Like, do you have a boyfriend? And that means a monogamous boyfriend. That's what people are asking you.
But it's not, right now it's not long term, meaning we haven't been together for a long time. I was going to say term and time together. So we haven't been together long. Right now we're monogamous, but does that mean that it's not a real relationship because I have to pass a certain length in order to,
Probably.
So I guess I'm not in a real relationship. I'm in a fake one at the moment.
What's another one? Give us another one.
Romantic love is the only real love. And this is where I remember being when we were in school, and where another one of those big aha moments is like, spirituality is all about love. Love. You know, if it's loving, then it's good. You're bringing more people together. And I'm not talking romantic love. I'm talking any type of love, whether it's love for your dog, your child, your parent,
eros, all the different,
all of it. Yes. So since I feel like I'd been shamed a lot for wanting to be a little bit more free in my sex life. Did I just say that out loud? I did. I love it. Yes, I wanted to be more free. I was sick of the paradigm. Trapped.
Are you talking about when you were married?
Yes.
Okay. So you felt trapped in your marriage sexually and you wanted to break out.
I can look back now and go like, oh, it's because there was other things operating, right?
Probably.
But that's where it surfaced with me. Mm-hmm. And so when I was in school and I was just like, they're pumping up love, all love's good. And I'm like, well, then how come this love that I have to give to this person is not good? And it was just this like, that's just something that's been programmed into us. Like, if love is infinite, then I can love my kids, I can love my husband, I can love a boyfriend, I can love my parent. Like, it's never ending. So why are we so trapped in small thinking that it's like we can only have enough love for one person?
Yeah, I love it, Krista. You know, one of these things, this is something that I just stumbled on lately, which is that what's important to me is to be loved. But I might be able to do that with more than one person at a time. So what wasn't so satisfying in the end, while it was fun and enjoyable for a short period of time, is continuing to have relationships that didn't involve a level of caring or love specifically. I mean, there's certainly friendship.
Consciousness. There's a level, for me, it's a level of consciousness. Like you can have a one-night stand with somebody that feels a little icky because maybe there's not a certain level of connection. Then you can have a one-night stand with someone that's super conscious, and even though you don't love them like you love them for the rest of your life, but you can really be in a space of full loving toward them, and it feels completely different.
But this is like number 3 on that list.
Oh,
so
another myth?
No.
Oh,
it's
another
just
option.
Another option, which was I got tired of having no connection in between. I felt very loving with everybody I was with in the moments we were together. It wasn't like I felt like we were just pals and I jumped into bed. Like that has never really floated for me. But I felt super connected. I felt like there were some very spiritual moments, all that stuff. But then when it was over, it was done. There was nothing carrying us. No friendship, no loving, no. So what I'm saying is that's the part that I shifted for me. Oh, I want ongoing connection, ongoing caring, even if I only see you once a month. Mm-hmm. And even if I'm seeing someone else in between whom I have ongoing. I mean, how do we choose our friends? Can you imagine if you could only have one? And be like, oh my God, that would suck. Or one child or one animal. It's like, that's ridiculous. Why is this one type of love fallen into this silly category where we can't have more than one?
And the one person that we're allowed to love, we have to love them in all ways. They have to be the perfect lover, the perfect husband, the perfect handyman, the perfect father, the perfect son.
I love the handyman.
Yeah.
Archetype.
I think we've both talked about for like, we will not be with a man. Or no, I was saying I will only be with someone that's handy. And you're like, really? I just hire them. She's like, you can pay somebody.
And strippers they often come looking like handymen, by the way, because we think it's so sexy to know how to fix a light bulb. I mean, just please do something.
But so limiting to think that someone can fill all of those spots.
How much pressure that is on them.
Now, I'm still hopeful that someone can, in a conscious relationship, keep morphing into these higher levels and higher levels and higher levels.
Like handyman? That's not what you're talking about.
That's not exactly what I'm talking about, but sure.
The spiritual handyman.
I think as we evolve, we can start getting more and more of those qualities that come out in our relationships. At least that's what I'm going to hold for.
Well, I think they're two separate things, because I do think you can hire people that your partner doesn't have the skills and you don't want to do, or neither of you just don't like to garden, so hire.
How come you can hire a nanny to take over as being a mom, but you can't hire a girl
sex
to take
surrogate?
Yeah.
I knew you were going there. Why can't I just hire that cute girl he keeps looking at the bar just to have sex with him? Because I'd like to go have sex with someone else. You could call that. You could try it, but you'd probably go to jail. I'm pretty sure.
Well, and there's actually a chapter in here on that as well, but we won't get into that today.
Not today.
So myth number 3 is sexual desire is a destructive force. And there are so many myths here, and we're obviously not going to be able to get to all of them today. But this one,
Let's just leave one on the table.
Well,
maybe they'll buy the book.
They should buy this book. Because
they should.
I literally think that this would be a great graduate for high school graduates who are stepping into the world, and they're going off to college, and there's all this experimentation ahead, and there's all this pressure to be this way and choose this job and get married, and you should be thinking about having children. There's all this stuff coming in these like young 20s. To have a book like this available for your child to read, it's like an encyclopedia of sex and all the different options that are out there, and it's like a candy store. They can choose.
My eyes are rolling back in my head because I am thinking how many people are falling to the floor thinking of giving their daughters who are 18 a free pass to whatever sex they want to have in their life. And
okay, well then I'm going to be the first. I'm going to give my 17-year-old daughter for her birthday this year this book. How about that? You dare me?
I think that's no, I don't even dare you? But I remember you asking on one of the very first shows, how am I going to talk to her about this stuff, and what am I going to talk to her about, and what, where's the conversation going to start? Am I going to just hand her condoms, or what is going to happen? Or a dildo?
Did that yesterday.
and dildos and things like that. No, this is where the conversation starts. And this is a brilliant conversation, you guys. This incredible ladies, men, whoever's here on this call today. We want you to know this is a brilliant conversation because it takes the morality out of the conversation and it gives you back your freedom, and you choose. Maybe I have noticed that I'm more attracted to younger men or
Italians.
How come
that came out of our mouths at the same time?
Italians, wow. Or, I don't know, big, whatever it is.
Oh, keep going with that sentence. Because your arms are about 5 feet wide right now. So I was like, oh yeah, she's going there.
Anyway, whatever you're attracted to, what we're trying to say is that we're exploring, how do we have everything? Since we can have all kinds of love in every other part of our lives, why can't we have all kinds of love here?
And I think there's the flip side of that is that this book isn't just about us looking at our own sexual life and saying, oh, do I want to dabble in that? Or would I like to experience this? It is also giving us a lot of compassion and,
I'm so
what's
glad
the
you said
word?
that.
I'm blanking on it, but empathy for what other people are going through,
what their choices
are. And for me, I've had judgments come up in my head, like when there's certain paragraphs and they're like, this is an option that's available and there's 20 people, and I'm like, oh, okay. And I noticed I was judging it, and I had to go, wow, why am I judging it, and where did that come from, and can I let that go?
And again, I really love the question, what am I scared of? Because judgments come from fear. So if I start judging something, instead of asking, am I scared of something? I could just go right to the meat of it.
What am I?
Oh, God, where did that come from? And just say, what am I scared of here? Because I'm already generating the judgments. And I know one of the things that came up for me that I thought was super funny was, oh, my God, I don't have time for this. I'm exhausted reading this book.
Oh, because there's so many different sexual scenarios. You're like, damn, I would not have time to fuck 20 people in a night. How do they do it?
And how do you know if you're going to do it with someone that night, or are we just friends tonight? You're going to go with her tonight. And it's so complicated. I'm like, no, that's too much for me.
And that's what's so great about it. It's a choice. Because for other people, it's like so simple. It's easy.
It's easy.
It's easy.
Let's leave on that note. Would you all be willing to be easy with your sexuality? Would you, Krista, be willing to be easy with your choices about what you want to do in your life around your sexuality and your relationships? Me too.
I'm going to go into easiness. Oh, high-fiving.
High-fiving.
All
okay,
right.
we're high-fiving out to you guys. Spread the love.
Spread the love.
Spread the love.
And check out the book, Ethical Slut. It's
Ethical
amazing.
Slut. You'll find it anywhere you look for it.
I'm sure we will bring it back
Again.
again. Yeah, because it's too good not to.
Yeah, we love you guys. Take good care.
Spread it.
Spread it.
Bye. We want to connect with all you lovers of sex, spirituality, and all things holy, but unfortunately, you've got to make the first move, baby. That means heading over to holyfuckpodcast.com to find our new episodes and all the juicy deets about Katherine and Krista. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Holy Fuck Podcast to get up-to-date info on our new episodes and current happenings. And if you are seeking a more one-on-one experience, check out Krista's offerings at KristaKimCoaching.com and visit KatherineMcClellan.com to see what's shaking in Katherine's world. Your spiritual evolution will thank you.